Let me tell you about the show's newest sponsor, Juniper Mountain Coffee. You can check them out at junipermountaintradingpost.com and check out everything that they sell. I really like what they say on their website. And guys, if you are a coffee connoisseur like me, this here American company that's not run by a bunch of wokesters might be worth checking out for you. What they say is, we roast coffee for those loyal to a lost way of life, those that never back down in the face of adversity, the ones that keep their word, treat people with respect, and still believe in the importance of hard work. We offer some of the best coffee in the world and look forward to earning a spot in your cup. And they have definitely earned a spot in my cup. Whether you like light roast, dark roast, ground already, or not ground, you just want to order it fresh. And they even have those little pod things for those of you that just make one cup at a time. I drink too much coffee for that, so I don't do that. And they also have a cold brew. But it's a great company, great story. You guys are going to dig these guys. Check them out at junipermountaintradingpost.com. Let them know the Western Huntsman sent you. This is that time of year when it's really time to turn up the heat on your scouting. We're going through summer. Season's going to be here before you know it. And I don't care if you're going after mule deer, whitetail, the mighty wapiti, whatever it is. Scouting is imperative, and it makes it much easier when you use trail cameras where they are allowed. And let me tell you something. I like trail cameras that are easy to use, functional, and have good quality pictures. That brings us to Spypoint. Spypoint trail cameras. You can check them out at spypoint.com. And it doesn't matter if you're looking to do one of the cell cams, like the Flex X or the Flex G36 or the LM2. They have some great deals on their website. Like right now, if you check them out, they've got some clearance cameras going on the cell cams. You can also get a cell link that attaches to any regular cell camera and will transmit pictures right to your phone. The other trail cameras, if you're way out in the backcountry and don't have phone service out there, the Force Pro S and the Force Pro are my go-to cameras. I absolutely love them. If you guys saw the pictures from this last bear season, they were really high-quality pictures, and they were all done with that Force Pro camera. So check it out, guys, at spypoint.com and let them know the Western Huntsman sent ya. Guys, you are going to like this one. If you like holsters and guns and firearms and everything else that I talk about all the time, you're in for a treat. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Town Studio. Glad you guys are here and joining us. This here is, today is August 5th, and we are just cooking right along through these old dog days of summer, but hunting season's right around the corner, so I'm really excited. I know I say that like every episode, guys. Even if it's January, hunting season is just creeping up on us, I know. This week I've got, it's kind of a funny story, and we're going to get into how we got connected, but I've got my new friend, and I'm gonna hope that I don't absolutely destroy your last name, Gabriel, but my new friend, good. Gabriel Saindon. Did I say that right?
Yeah, nailed it.
Did
Absolutely.
Yep. Sweet, yeah. Man. Dude, I'm like batting 1,000 this summer.
Yeah, one of 3 people that's ever said it right. Good call.
Right on, man. I should. You're going to send me like a T-shirt or something, right? That I pronounced your last name.
I'll send you a coffee mug.
So, guys, Gabriel is the founder of Ivory Holsters, and I got to tell the story, Gabriel, how this whole thing went down. I've got this DM from Ivory Holsters. And I know I've heard of Ivory Holsters before because I'm a kind of a gun geek. And so I looked at the message, and I thought it was like a scam or something at first. I'm like, man, I think their Instagram got hacked or something, because it's like, hey, man, you want a holster? Okay, are we there? Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, I got you.
ladies and gentlemen, I am, you guys know I live out in the sticks, and I lost my internet there for a minute, and so when you live where you don't have phone service, you can do this thing on your phone called Wi-Fi calling, and that's what we depend on. So we do have somewhat of a summer storm coming in, and if I lose you, Gabriel, just between you and I promise I didn't hang up, man. I lost internet again. So, so
You're good.
We'll just pick up and just leave it as is, dude.
Yep. Good.
I was just telling the story that like I got the message from you. You slid into my DMs.
I did.
And said I want a holster, and I was like, man, that's got to be a scam or something. Why would I win a holster? And then you sent me another one, and I'm like, okay, no, this is legit. So I messaged you back, and you're like, yeah, somebody nominated you, and I think it sounds like it was my buddy of mine and a listener to the show down in the Boise area, Chris McKelvey. Is that who?
Yep. It was, and it's funny. I knew because I had. So, I mean, honestly, this is the hardest holster I've ever tried to give away. I've never had to try so hard to give away gear.
Yeah, man.
It was funny because there was and Chris had actually nominated. So bottom line, we had done a giveaway with an outfit called Cutright Mobile, and so Cutright had done this big package.
You just partner up with anybody, huh?
I don't know about that. They're a little shady, if you ask me.
That's right. No, those are great guys over there.
Yeah, so Cutright had done the giveaway, and they ended up. There was a guy out of Canada that won that package, and so in Canada, he just had texted me or emailed, I don't remember, and he goes, "Hey, I don't have a need for it. I don't even have a pistol. We can't own pistols up here unless there's some bunch of hoops they have to jump through." He goes, "I want to send it to extend that free holster to a veteran." So I was like, "Cool." So I put it out on Instagram. We did a big kind of a call to action to go, "Hey, all you got to do is nominate somebody in this post. Nominate a veteran that you think should win a holster." And Chris had nominated 4 or 5, 6 guys, and so I ended up, oddly enough, I had picked another guy, and this guy's like, "Well, I don't even own a pistol," and so I'm like, "You got to be kidding me."
Damn, man, what's with all these people that don't own pistols?
I know. And so I texted you, and when I didn't get it, because you know how Instagram shows you that you've seen the message.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I know you read it. I know, but then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, if you got a message that said, "Hey, you just want a holster," that I didn't put in for, I'm going to be like, "Oh, this guy's a total scam." And so I knew, I was like, I bet he thinks this is a scam. And so that's when I texted back, the next day, I was like, "Hey, look, Chris had put you in, as a veteran that needed a holster, and or maybe possibly could use one." And so I had to, kind of slip the details in there to go, "Hey, it's not a scam." But I knew right away. I was like, "Oh, he thinks I'm a scammer," and it made sense after I thought about it.
Well, it was weird because, I know Ivory Holsters, I know the company, and so I know that the company's not a scam. But I thought maybe, you know how you get these random weird friend requests on Facebook, or you get these dumb messages, and when you do a podcast, man, I get so many messages on that Instagram, the DMs. It's like people get pissed and they're like, "I can't believe you said this," or people send me. I get a lot of nice messages too, and then I get a bunch of anti-hunting people that try to send me stupid shit. Right. You get what I'm saying, and so it's just like it just didn't really register at first. So, Chris, man, I appreciate you nominating me, dude. I like holsters.
Yeah, he's a good dude. That guy he's awesome. He carries an Ivory. He's just a solid dude. And I think he just moved, didn't he? Didn't he move out of? He was coming from Oregon or Washington.
He came, I think, Northern California. And he's new to Idaho, and he's all pumped to be here because it's like moving back to America or something. And he's all pumped because Idaho's it's got a lot of opportunity for people that are enthusiastic about the outdoors, and I feel like just from what he's posted and stuff, it's like a dream come true for him. And he's actually been on the show before.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have to listen to it. We actually were just up there. We were talking before, but was it the Northwest Mountain Challenge up there, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so we were in Donnelly,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was amazed. Honestly, the place is absolutely beautiful.
Hmm.
We have 4 little boys, so we went on a decent little hike. I did not want to leave. It was amazing. I would happily live in Donnelly or McCall or anywhere up there. And then there are other people that are like, um, it's funny because you tell them you're from Colorado and they look at you kind of sideways, like, and I'm like, whoa, 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 I'm not that kind of Coloradoan, right? I'm not out of Boulder. Take it easy.
That is a new
Can I please
thing.
get my whiskey? Yeah,
That is a new perception of Coloradans. Okay. That's just I think due to recent politics and stuff like that,
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense because we look at Californians the same way.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not all like that. I mean, Chris McKelvey, yeah, he's perfect fit for Idaho, and so it's just it's great. That Donnelly area is cool, man. That is like the epicenter, if you will, of where wolves were released back in 1995. And actually, don't quote me on this. I think it is. I think that's roughly the area where wolves were first reintroduced. If anybody has a correction on that, shoot me an email, jim@thewesternhuntsman.com, because I don't want to like try to type it up and mess with my internet right now. So yeah, man, tell us a little bit about yourself. I want to learn about you and the company and where this idea came from to start this company, and we'll talk about some holsters and go from there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I worked until last year for the government for 19 and a half years and just here in Denver. Man, I just through a whole bunch of different stuff, really. If I'm honest, I've always felt called to own a business of some kind. I just didn't know what it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so working for the federal government for, like I said, almost 20 years, 19 and a half years, there's just a bunch of stuff that kind of revolved around that it didn't sit well with me. And so those two things, coupled, like I felt like God was calling me to run a business, and so we made the jump in 2015, but prior, and I say we made the jump in 2015, meaning we set up the LLC in 2015. But prior to that, it was more of I needed a holster for concealed carry. So I kind of got online and this is going way, way back, but got online and was looking for a holster, and there was a guy online that was selling. He'd either sell you, it was one of those like hybrid holsters, right, where it had like leather on the back and kydex on the front.
Oh yeah.
And you could either buy the whole holster for, let's call it like $80, or you could buy it in pieces where he would send you a shell and leather and clips, and you could buy that for $50, or he would send you like just a flat sheet of kydex and then some leather and all the rest of the parts, and you could buy that for whatever, $30. And then he had these tutorials online that you could, mold the kydex using your kitchen's, oven, to try and warm it up. Yeah. And it was really cool. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I ended up buying the entire holster. But then my wife had gotten me a new pistol. So I went from a Springfield to a Glock, and they were fairly similar, but it wouldn't fit perfectly. So at one point I'm watching this tutorial and I'm like, well, let's see if we can remold the kydex that he sent us from the Springfield to the Glock. And so it's me and a buddy of mine in a kitchen with some foam and a heat gun. And I got my, 230-pound best friend, I'd warmed up the kydex and he's shoving this piece of foam. It might've been like a yoga mat or something, like squishing this gun in a piece of kydex. And so that's kind of where it started. And I was like, man, this is not exactly, the hardest thing to do to warm up kydex and kind of shape it into what you want. So it was a hobby for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Where I just watched a ton of YouTube videos and, started out in my basement with, some pipe clamps and a book press. And, literally it was I think a $2.99 toaster oven we had gotten from thrift store, and just started, burning plastic in the basement.
Really?
And yeah, and it was it never really was built to be, at least not initially. It wasn't anything that I was like, this is going to become my business where I'm going to feed my kids, building plastic, holsters. But it got to a point where I was selling enough of them that it got me, so I didn't have to take any money away from the family for hunting licenses and gear and stuff like that. So it was kind of one of those things where I was like, I can create this side hustle and sell just enough to pick up new hunting gear every year and stuff like that, which worked out like beautifully, because I know a lot of guys out there have a day job and all that money goes to the family, which I love guys like that. I have a massive amount of respect for guys that just family is number one, right? They take family first, and they'll do whatever they have to do to try and side hustle to make sure that they can get out and hunt, whether that's time off of work or extra money, whatever it is. And so that's kind of where it was for me. And then it got to the point where it's funny, because my wife at one point, she goes, well, you're in the basement a lot, and the family doesn't get a whole lot of time with you, and you're using all this money for hunting, and there's just, honestly, there's not a business or not a like a benefit to the family. And so I'm like, well, she's kind of right. And so it was one of those moments where I was like, well, you better either make something of this or shut it down, because she's right. I'm spending too much time.
Yeah.
We had moved from the basement to the garage, and my side hustle for hunting money was taking too much time. And so, yeah, she made sense. And so, we just started to kind of run at this and bought some more advanced equipment to be able to produce a better product. And then, and stop me if I'm rambling.
About what year was that?
Was probably in the basement. So if we started the LLC in 2015, it was probably 2012 that we had kind of, I started bending plastic probably 2011, 2012, and just did it for a couple of years. Just like I said, enough to be able to make hunting money. And then kind of got serious about it in 2014. And then again, kicked it off in 2015. Yeah. And even then it was super slow. It was just like, you know what, we had made, I think that there's some laws about making whatever over $1,000 in Colorado and having to either form some sort of a sole proprietorship or whatever. So I was like, all right, well, let's give it a shot. And so we did. And yeah, it's just kind of taken off from there. I say taken off from there. It didn't take off. We didn't actually start in the hunting realm, although I made a bunch of holsters for my hunting buddies every year for different packs that they had on, and kind of grew from there. But it was mostly like concealed carry and then outside the waistband stuff. And then, I don't honestly remember what year it was, but I had reached out to the guys at Exo Mountain Gear. And I was just like, hey, I don't have one of your packs. And so I just wanted feedback. If I'm honest, I was like, I want to send you a couple of rigs, check them out and give me just feedback. And I was super clear about it. They were amazing. And they were like, I said, I just want feedback because I don't have one of your packs. I'm running I think it was a Seek Outside at the time. And so I said, I want to send you 2 or 3 holsters, and I don't want any gear. I don't want any kind of publication. I just want your feedback. And so Mark is super kind. He's like, yeah, send it. So I sent him 3 holsters. He gave me some feedback, and then we were able to kind of mold something that just works really, really well for backcountry hunters, that mounts to hunting packs. It's just, super. I think the main thing there was like they wanted something super stable, and I wanted something that it would protect the gun, because everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of guys have gone out, and guns are not cheap for the most part. And so, yeah, you get out there and you got like a $600 Springfield, and you're beating the heck out of it, especially if you're running through elk country, laydowns and scrub oak and all that stuff. And so just beating the heck out of this. And so I wanted to build something that was stable on the pack platform, but also would help protect the gun and keep mud and, snow out of the barrel, stuff like that. So anyway, long story long, I guess, ended up, sent them a couple, and then sent Mark the final version, and he's like, that's great. He literally said, let's talk about a release. And I was like, what? And I didn't say anything, in the email. I was like, yeah, that'd be great. Let's talk about a release. And in my head, I'm like, what the heck do you mean a release? Like, I don't know what. So they were just fantastic, and they've been instrumental for whatever that's worth. Those guys are just incredible. I don't know, you and I talked, and you run an initial ascent pack, and those guys are just, man, they're such solid guys. I got to meet them at the Western Hunt Expo last February.
Yeah.
Like I got to meet them in person. We actually stayed in the same hotel.
Like Dennis and them.
Yes. Just great men. They were awesome. And so anyway, I say that to say that this industry, I've not, and even in the holster industry, even with like competing holster makers, man, there's just the greatest people on the planet in the hunting realm. Mm-hmm. And you know that, but
oh yeah,
man, they've been super good. So anyway, yeah, XO put out some sort of publication in their email, and really kind of took off from there, and kind of put that light bulb in my head, like, boy, this could be a really viable thing. You might actually be able to make this work to the point where you can keep a roof over your head and keep your kids fed. And so yeah, I got super excited about it, and have just been kind of trying to keep my foot on the gas ever since.
I love these kind of stories, man. And I know you're like kind of stressing out you were going too long or whatever, but that's important stuff, because, when you think about the country that we live in and the opportunities that are at hand, and people that, may have this opinion that you can't make it here and the cards are like stacked against you, or capitalism sucks or whatever. And I don't mean to get all dramatic about it, but you kind of smell what I'm stepping in with that, something like that.
Yeah.
And you hear these kind of stories. This is the essence of what makes America a great place to be, and be creative and thrive, and create a business and create an idea and a concept and take it to market and win in the marketplace with something. And it's like, this is the kind of stuff I always think, hopefully somebody is listening to this and they have an idea, some kind of concept in their mind. They are genuinely, and I guarantee they're turning it up. They want to hear how you took it from this concept and this idea, and now it's like it's your company. Then this is how you support your family, and that could motivate somebody to take that step, because it's always risky. It costs money, and it's risky, and you never know what's going to come out of it. But you'll never know if you don't try it. And
you're exactly right. Yeah. But you've probably gone through the same type of stuff with the podcast at the very least, right? I mean, how many, and maybe I'm way off, but how many times have you thought to yourself, like, is this worth it? Is this something I should continue to spend my time on? Is it, you know what I mean?
All the time. Yeah. I don't say all the time. I didn't think this podcast would be more than just like my local hunting community. Honestly, I thought, okay, if I could start a conversation about wolves and how we can get wolves under control and grizzly bears and stuff like that up here in the Pacific Northwest kind of thing. And it just kind of grew out of control to where it is now. And so, but yeah, there was been a few times where it's like, man, this thing's a lot of work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I 100% know what you mean. I think and not to take it off on a tangent, but I'm telling you, if there is that person that's out there that's got an idea and they want to try and bring it to market or whatever, the thing I'm finding most of all is a level of commitment. There's it's so funny. I started this with my buddy, and I'm sure he'll listen to this. I started this with my best friend, and when we first had the very first conversation about it, I always go back to this. It's what level of committed am I to this, and what level of committed are you to this? And so there's this kind of analogy. It's like if the farmer wants breakfast, the chicken has a contribution, the pig is committed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
And so my thing is always like, what level of committed are you? And so if there's anybody out there that's listening and they're like, man, I really want to do this, or I'm feeling called to do this, especially if you're feeling called to do something, whatever it is, the level of commitment is massive, right? I won't quit. It's in my heart, and I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. And even like when I get guys that have called me and they're like, Gabe, I was carrying, I don't remember the guy's name, and I really should. I was carrying I think he said he had 80 or 90 pounds on his back. And I remember said he was hunting with a guy named Tyler Boschma.
Mm-hmm.
And they're packing an elk out, and they're walking uphill, and it turns out Boschma had crested the hill, and this guy is can't see Boschma anymore, but he's almost to the top of the hill, and he hears this ruckus on the left side of him, and he looks over, and there's this black bear on a mule deer, and this black bear stands up and starts like charging at him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so he goes, Gabe, I drew my pistol, and he's like, I wasn't even trying to give warning shots. I was just like, blasting away.
Chitty chitty bang bang at that point.
Yeah, there was no goofing around. And so sure enough, he'd shot enough shots. He didn't hit it at all, but had put enough rounds in that right direction to get that bear to kind of booger off a little bit. But that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, so yeah, like my thing is I want to feed my family with this. I'm so proud of what I do. I'm so thankful to God for this business and for what he's provided for me. But man, when I get a call like that, that's like, hey, you helped me to come home to my family. And I'm not saying it wasn't, obviously there's a lot that goes into that, Glock or physical fitness or whatever. There's a ton of stuff that goes into that. But when I get a guy that's like, man, I was able to fend off a bear because you built in your garage a product that helped me to be safer and get home to my family, man, I get such a charge out of that.
Man, I would too. That's awesome.
That's really, really cool.
Freaking cool. Yeah, that's interesting, man. And I think that's what sets this, you're very specific to hunters, and not necessarily only hunters, but you've got kind of this lean towards the hunting space, and you're designing these holsters for hunters. And I think that's what's paramount. So, and to get back to Chris McKelvey, who nominated me, I think it was a sympathetic nomination because he knows what happened to me last season where I had a 45 ACP, and it was in a chest holster, and it ended up in my truck fire. I had a truck fire on my way up to retrieve an elk, and my truck burned to the ground, man. And so I lost like my laptop and my pistol, and I've got other pistols, but there's always that one that you take hunting, and I hunt a lot of grizzly country, so that's it was one of those things I have yet to. I haven't replaced all that stuff with the exception I did just replace the pistol. It's the one I sent you. That picture or whatever. Yeah. And so, it's good timing because hunters, when we're out there, and especially for those of us that hunt in grizz country, we need something that is reliable, that is going to keep the weather out, that's going to keep debris out so we don't have a barrel full of, pine needles or something. We need something that is easily accessible without worrying about a branch taking your pistol out and you not noticing and walking 10 miles before you realize your pistol's missing. Yeah. Those are the things that like I worry about. And it's just, it's like, when I feel like, especially when you're bow hunting and you're in Colorado, let me ask you this. In Colorado, when you're bow hunting, can you pack a pistol?
I'm such a dunce on this. I've heard both ways, and I've never really researched it. We always do, and we've had game wardens come upon us, and no one's ever said anything to us.
Okay,
but I guess there could be that one game warden who is froggy or whatever. But I don't want to say because I know I'm going to miss the mark on that.
I feel you.
Somebody will get on this podcast or somebody will get busted up and they'll be like, well, Gabe on the podcast said that you could carry a gun in Colorado.
Disclaimer. So, we're not saying what the law is. That's why there's always, check for yourself. Cause I know I want to say it was Utah. I hunted Utah and you were, I think it was there. You can't pack a pistol during bow season or whatever, but I could be wrong on that. I don't remember what state it was, but anyway, where was I going with that, dude? Anyway, I was just kind of listing off things that are important in my mind for this kind of holster, and so I want to pick your brain as to, what sets Ivory Holster apart. What do you feel like your elevator pitch or your big selling point is for this product? I've been talking about Hoffman boots for a very long time. You guys know that I'm a huge fan of this company, and it's not just the great products that they make; it's the story behind the company and the people that run it. This generational family of shoemakers right here in North Idaho makes some of the best hunting boots and pack boots and lineman boots and all your boot needs right in one place at hoffmanboots.com. For us hunters, I highly recommend the Explorer, and I don't care if you're running in the 6-inch or the 8-inch or the 10-inch. Personally, I love my 8-inch Explorers. They've got the Vibram sole. They are totally waterproof. There's no break-in period. Guys, you can't go wrong with Hoffman boots because you get all that without breaking the bank. So check them out at hoffmanboots.com and use promo code all caps lock Huntsman10 at checkout for 10% off, and find out why I have been wearing my Hoffman boots for years and years. Don't be one of those people that have it in their mind that Savage Arms is the same firearms that your grandpa was running around with 40 years ago. It's not. Big game hunting rifles that you can count on. I love my Savage firearms. I have got the Savage 110 Hunter, and my daughter is pretty happy with this 110 Apex Hunter XP. The AccuTrigger is a really interesting little piece to this firearm, and it's a new piece of technology that if you've never tried one, you should, because it'll make you more accurate. It's a much easier, higher quality firearm than anything else I've got out there, and I've got a lot of firearms, guys, and so if you're in the market for a new hunting rifle, make sure you visit savagearms.com, because I promise you're going to find something that is accurate, easy to handle, easy to use, long range, functional, just a high quality weapon that you could take to the field and have a lot of confidence that when the time comes, you've got that Savage backing you up and you're going to be notching a tag. Check it out, savagearms.com. Let them know the Western Huntsman sent you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of, honestly, it's just the little stuff. It's because, I mean, you can for sure buy, a $30 to $40 holster or whatever, Amazon or anywhere. I shouldn't say anywhere, online. You can, if you look hard enough, you'll find something that will get the job done. And a lot of guys do that, whether it's leather or Kydex or whatever. But I think for me, I've kind of, and it means more. I shouldn't say that. It means more to me perhaps than a lot of guys. But there are things that like guys notice, right? So I'm going to nerd out. So if you want to stop me. But
no, go ahead.
The way we form them right now is it basically comes out in like.
All right, we're back. Another cutoff, guys. Again, just I don't mean to sound repetitive, but I'm on Wi-Fi calling, and we're dealing with a summer storm out there, which we need really bad because there's fires everywhere around here. So Gabriel was explaining how he forms these. So Gabriel, I'll just let you take it from there, man.
Yeah, you had asked, kind of what sets us apart from the average holster or other company or whatever. It's so the way we form them is like an 80-20 split. And so you get about 80% of the definition on the outside, and then on the inside, it's about as flat as you can make it against the body. And then it's got it's molded in with basically a pre-curve. So it kind of matches the contour of the hip. And so it makes it really, really comfortable. Whereas if we had gone with like a 50-50 split, you can imagine that basically you'd have 50% of the definition on the back. And then when you bend the wings and then throw a belt through it, it basically torques or creates leverage against the body. And so especially for some, we'll just call it the guys that are real lean, boy, it puts pressure on the hip. Even through some of these big, thick pack belts, you can feel that pressure. And so it just causes like an undue torque. And so it's little things like the comfort, because we mold them the way we do. They've got a closed end muzzle, and so there's no way you can get, if you could drop it in mud. Matter of fact, I had a guy call me and he goes, Gabe, I slipped and fell on my holster side down a muddy hill, and I slid to the bottom of the hill. And normally I would have like just mud packed in the barrel, and because of it's just a closed muzzle, I didn't get anything in the barrel. I got, you take it out and look at it, and
check
it was
just
super clean. And then we run an adjustable retention screw just forward of the trigger guard, which is super important to me, because I don't want you to lose your gun in the woods, right? And so the ability to cinch that booger down to the point where you almost basically where you got to snap it to get it out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you end up being, at a range day or whatever, and you want to loosen it up so you can run an 8-hour course or whatever. The adjustable retention has been a big deal for me, and then kind of a game changer for a lot of guys that are like, man, I've lost guns in the woods before, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then again, little stuff like we'll call it a sweat guard, but basically it's a slide guard, and it runs both sides, front and back. It runs all the way up the slide, so that when we're running through thick, brushy country, you're not scratching up your slide any more than you really have to, right? I mean, I know it's a tool, and maybe you shouldn't. I shouldn't be as concerned with it, but I paid $600 for this tool, or in some cases, like some of these guys are carrying $1,200 or $1,800.
I know, man.
Right,
and so, you're right that there is that element of it, and like for me, it's so dependent on which firearm I have. Like I have this old 30-30 Winchester, the Model 94. I love this rifle. Yeah. Love this rifle, and it's killed more deer than the plague. And I don't give a hoot if I scratch this thing. I'm not losing you, am I?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. I don't care if I scratch it. I keep it clean. I keep the rust off and all that kind of stuff, and I treat the stock.
Sure.
But it's probably my favorite firearm that I own, and it's just because of the history, and there's a lot of sentimental value to it. Now, you contrast that with this new 10 millimeter I just bought. This is going to be my bear gun. Like, I don't want it scratched up. I want to keep it nice. I want to, so it's so dependent on the firearm. So that begs the question for, in this case, so when you're making these, and if I'm digging for information that's proprietary or something like that, just stop me. I don't care. I'm a curious guy. So you must have like a mold for each different type of firearm and like maybe manufacturer or something that how you heat these together, or is that how that works, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. The holster, I guess, especially for small guys like me, that there's a couple of companies out there that do a really good job of basically building holster molds that are already prepped to be able to run them like we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Versus when I first started, I would have had you bring your gun over to the house. I would have taken an hour and a half to mock it up and get it blocked out right.
Oh, wow.
And then put it in the press, and just to do it right. But yeah, I think we've got probably 75 models right now, all the most popular models. But yeah, I've got basically it's a t-shirt press, and we heat that, and you can see all this stuff on our Instagram page too. There's, like you said, it's funny. I've got people around me that'll say, "Hey, you're giving away too much information. You're sharing your secrets." And in my head, I'm like, "There's nothing that I'm doing that hasn't been done already." And I mean, we're doing it a little differently, right? And we're putting some good details into it. But I've learned all this stuff from YouTube. There's nothing I'm doing that you can't find on YouTube. And so I'm a big fan of just putting out solid information and trying to provide value. And if that means that I can provide value in a way that teaches somebody how to basically create a competitor company, I'm totally okay with that. But it's a t-shirt press essentially, and you heat the Kydex to roughly 350 and then throw it in a vacuum former. I got a couple of vacuum formers on the bench, and just form it around it. You're exactly right. Whatever the mold gun is that you have, and so like I said, we got 75 of them.
Oh, nice.
Vacuum
that's
it down,
crazy, man.
Let it cool. Yeah, it's so much fun. Honestly, if you get a chance, I'll send you some videos or some links to some videos. But man, it seems like the stuff that gets the most traction on our YouTube channel and our Instagram are the videos where we're actually forming the holsters. It's not like the final product is kind of cool looking, but man, when you can see how your holster was built, it is interesting. It's like that show how it. I love that show, and I understand. Yeah, it's like that. Those are the ones that get the most traction.
I love that kind of stuff, and you learn. You just kind of. I don't know. It takes a special kind of person to not wonder how that kind of stuff comes together. Yeah, I don't understand that mentality. I'm super curious about that kind of stuff, and one of the coolest part of my day job when I'm not recording podcasts here is I get to go to all these different types of facilities, and a lot of them are manufacturers like what you're talking about, and you've got your press and your heat this and the molds and all these different things that produce this product. And with my day job, I get to go like tour all these different crazy facilities. Like I saw how what is that brand? The O'Reilly or some kind of potato company. They make French fries.
Ore-Ida, yeah.
Ore-Ida, yeah. I got to go tour that facility, and it's amazing to see these freaking trucks packed full of potatoes. And I watched the whole process, how they turn into French fries and then get frozen. It's crazy. Anyway,
yeah,
I geek out on that kind of stuff. So, and
no, me too. Yeah.
Where'd the name Ivory dude? Just a quick. I hope I don't drop you here. This storm is super sketchy right now. But anyway, Ivory Holsters. Where'd the name come from?
Yeah, so it's funny. We when I started it with my buddy, we wanted something that wasn't. It's funny because you get like people that like Black Ops tactical holsters, right? Which is cool, right? But we wanted something that wasn't. So we were like going back and forth, like, oh, what should we name it? We wanted something that didn't basically ass out the female demographic, because we were looking at like concealed carry at the time and outside the waistband stuff, and then just knowing I'm a super huge elk hunter. Like, I say that I'm not a great elk hunter when I say that. I have this like massive passion in my heart for elk. There's no other feeling that I've had that even compares to coming to full draw on an elk. I don't care if it's a cow, a bull, whatever, right? But we were talking, we wanted something to do with like kind of in hunting. And so Ivory wasn't super over the top, like tactical, but it was also in the hunting realm. So the logo is an elk, but it's basically, and all the elk have a couple of ivory buglers.
Oh yeah.
In their mouth. And so that's kind of where it came from. It was either the ivory buglers, or when you get that beautiful bull that's got those ivory white tips on his antlers, that's kind of where it came from. And so
see, you should take a little piece of the ivory with every elk you kill and put it on the holster somewhere.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I don't. The problem is we sell a lot more holsters than I've killed elk.
Okay. Well, good point. I'd have the same issue, man. I love the ivories. The namesake of my studio, Broken Time Studio, when I killed that bull, my one of my daughters was with me, and I took the ivories out and made her a necklace out of them. It turned out super cool.
Oh, they're really cool. When I read some story somewhere that like the Native Americans used to be able to basically, it was almost like a status symbol. They would create stuff like almost like a chainmail chest protector or whatever. Obviously, it was made of elk ivories, but it was basically like a status thing. Like, this guy's a great hunter, and you could trade elk ivories for like blankets or rifles or ammo. It was pretty darn impressive that those little tiny ivories had become like currency at one point, which I thought was super interesting to me. And I don't. Yeah. If I'm honest, it's probably a pride thing with me, the ability to have those on, hanging from the rearview mirror of the car, or make a necklace for my sons, or whatever. Yeah. It's just kind of, it's cool.
Hey, are you hearing that weird feedbacky thing, or is it just coming through my end?
No, I'm not. I just plugged the phone in. I don't know. Maybe I'll unplug it.
I think it's coming from like my end because of all the lightning out there. So okay, it just went away. So hopefully we're good.
Okay.
Again, listeners, terribly sorry. This happens every once in a while. We get these bad storms, and it just sometimes the sound quality suffers from it. So we'll just keep plugging along.
Yeah.
Say check 1 2 3.
Check 1 2 3.
Actually, you sound really good. You sound really good. Okay, cool.
Good.
Let's just keep rolling.
All right.
So that was the idea, is you wanted something somewhat hunting related. You've got the elk logo and Ivory Holsters. I wondered about that. I wondered if it had something to do with elk ivories, because I'm like you, man. I'm pretty nutty about elk hunting. I'm not super good at it either, but I'm pretty nutty about it. And so that's kind of the first thing that popped into my mind when I saw the name. Tell me a little bit about your hunting background, man. Did you grow up hunting, or?
No, not at all, actually. So my wife. We're not high school sweethearts. We didn't start dating until after high school, but I had never hunted, we didn't do a whole lot of camping as a kid. I kind of had we'll call it a bit of a rough childhood. Although I think plenty of people out there have had far rougher childhoods than I have, but it was like my dad, who had adopted us, he wasn't into a whole lot of, the outdoor stuff, so I never got to hunt. But when I met my wife, her dad was going pheasant hunting for the first time, and I was like, he invited me to go, and I didn't even I owned a 22 rifle at the time that I bought when I was 12 with my own money, and I was super excited about it.
Now, did you grow up in Colorado?
I did. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when we started kind of dating, I was probably 20. I was 20 when we started or 19 when we started dating, and then I don't know. He had taken me pheasant hunting, and I didn't even have a license at the time, or even my hunter safety. And so we go out, and Jim, I'm telling you, the first time I watched him put down a bird, I was amazed. I was like, I cannot believe that you can walk out into a field, kill whatever it is, whatever animal you're seeking, and then bring it home and feed your family. I was astonished by it. It was totally foreign to me. So the next year, he had bought me, for my birthday, he bought me my first shotgun, bought me a Mossberg 835 12 gauge, and so he took me out. And then I popped my first, I think I shot a jackrabbit that year and one bird. And then, man, I'm telling you, I was done. When I breasted out my first bird, I was like, I have to kill big stuff. I was like baffled. And so I'm working at the airport again for the feds. And I just remember having this huge tug to get out and kill whatever, elk or deer. And so I was like talking to my boss at the time. I'm like, I'm going to go elk hunting. And he's like, well, have you ever been? And I'm like, nope. And he's like, well, you have a rifle? I'm like, nope. He's like, well, who are you going with? I'm like, I'm just going by myself. He's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm just going to walk out into the woods and find a place where it's, public, and I'm just going to learn it. And he kind of got this look on his face like, geez, oh, criminy, you freaking knothead kid. Like, you can't just walk out into the woods by yourself and, hope to. So he's like, okay, you come with me. I'll take you this year. Which was, amazingly eye-opening. And he hunted in a completely different manner than we did. Like, the guy would run up the hill in the morning, sweating his tail off. He'd plop down, rip his clothes off, put dry clothes on, and then sit in that spot all day long. So that's what I thought elk hunting was initially.
Yeah, I was kind of. That's funny, the way you described that. Anyway, keep going.
No, and so yeah, I was like, got up, didn't kill anything the first year, but went back a second year, and I killed a yearling and was done. I told myself, I'm like, I've never felt anything like, and this was with a rifle, it wasn't a bow, but it was like, I've never felt anything like this. And not that I've never really done, drugs or anything like that. So I don't know, maybe there's some drug out there that'll make you feel like that, but I have not experienced that. It was, as you know, it was unbelievable. So I told myself, I was like, I will hunt every year for the rest of my life as long as my body will let me. And I was hooked, done.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And Colorado's not a terrible place to be for that kind of stuff.
Oh no, it's especially in the place that we're in. We hunt in a spot it's been really, really good to us. We just got super lucky with it. And it's been, we kill a decent amount of elk through, between archery and rifle season, all within probably, like, honestly, probably a 700-yard circle. We've killed just a pile of elk. We got super, and we worked for it, right? We had to kind of learn the area, but man, it's been so good to us. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the fun part about when you work the same few areas over the years, you start developing these little pockets where there's going to be elk. And I love going into new country to find elk, or deer or bear or whatever I'm hunting, but there's something about, man, okay, I call it I have this one mountain, I call it Consistent Mountain. Old Consistent Mountain, there's going to be elk on that bad boy. So I'm heading up there, and so it's always nice to have that in your back pocket.
Do you find that when you're going up to Consistent Mountain, do you find that every now and again you'll be so focused on getting to Consistent Mountain that you walk past elk on the way there?
Well, so kind of. I drive past where I know are really good elky areas. It's way up on this Forest Service road. That it's kind of this. I want to address this because I think it's important that it'd be one of those things that people should understand when you're hunting logging country, and that type of terrain where it's real thick timber, but there's logging operations going on, and they're not logging the entire mountain. I'm just trying to give a couple of hints for some maybe some new hunters out there. But and I'll answer your question. But when they're logging these sections of mountains, what do you think happened to the elk that were previously living in those sections? They're going to the sections that haven't been logged, and it creates these little micro habitats for elk and deer and bear. So I'm only bringing this up because I've seen a couple times, or I've heard on other shows or something recently where people are really down on hunting logging country. Don't be. Those elk are not leaving. They're just going to a different spot on that mountain. So I've been wanting to say that on the podcast for a long time, and I just never think of it, so I'm glad you brought that up. But to answer your question, yes, I absolutely know I'm passing elk to get to that mountain where I know there's elk, and it generally pays off for me in elk encounters, but I do know I'm probably going way further than I need to drive-wise, in order to find elk. It's like a comfort spot, comfort zone spot. I know there's going to be elk there. There's always a lot of action. I always have a great time on this mountain. And anyway, I've talked about it much.
I ask because I do the same thing. I know that we're, because we've been so blessed up there that I know that I'm walking past elk at times.
Yep.
To get to elk. And it's funny because I've got Trent from Born and Raised in my head. Like, their number one rule is you don't leave elk to find elk. And I'm like, man, but I just know, right? I know if we can get to this point, like, I know there's elk up there. And so, yeah, I ask only because it's one of my downfalls. I've really become a creature of habit, to the point where if my unit, the place where we hunt, if that place were to burn down, it would be a whole new game for me. I'd have to, obviously go out and try and find, which, if I'm honest, I should be doing now anyway. I should be hunting new units and trying to find elk, which I've learned through, like we were talking earlier about Paul Medell. I've learned through him how to find elk. So it's not super, super hard, as long as I don't mind putting boots to the ground and some time at night in. But man, it's if that unit or whatever, if that spot were to burn down, it would break my heart, Jim.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things you said there that I want to touch on, I think, that are important, because like what Trent was talking about, what he's talking about, if you have confirmed elk.
Yes. Yep.
Right. There's elk in this drainage, but you're trying to get to the next drainage over. You're wasting your time.
Agreed.
But what I'm talking about is I know I'm driving by multiple areas where there is most likely elk, but I haven't confirmed it, where I know there's going to be elk up at that mountain, right? And I think that's kind of what you're referring to too. And sometimes we get it in our head. I think I just recently said this on a recent episode, but I had Dirk on the show, one of the first School of Septembers, and it's one of the things that stuck with me more than anything when it comes to elk hunting. Is fall in love with finding elk, don't fall in love with an area. And I have to remind myself of that every single year, because I do have these areas where I think, oh man, I've had so much success. It's, it's been a good spot. There's always elk, blah, blah, blah. But if there's nothing there, don't waste a bunch of time, move on. And
sure.
I think it's like anything else. You've probably got this in your business with Ivory Holsters, where there's something very proficient about having this diversity of things going on, where, like, when you go into an elk season, I think you should always have those spots that you know are good, but you should also have a handful of new areas that you've never checked out, and you should have a handful of areas that maybe you've checked out in years past. And they might not have been great last year, but maybe they're going to be good this year because maybe there was a forest fire, or maybe there's no wolves in that area, or some circumstance may have changed. And so having that diversity of backup plans, I think is super critical for elk hunters, and a lot of people miss that.
Yep. No, you're exactly right. And I've been that creature of habit where, we've had one year specifically where we just could not get in them, and we've always been able to get in them. We don't always kill them, but we've always been able to get in them. And this 1 year, it was like, boy, everything is dry. There's no scat. There's no tracks. And we literally stayed, days past when we should have. When what we should have done, to your point, was like, get the heck out of there, man. Go find some elk in the next unit, or whatever. But man, it was like, but they've been here every year. I know they're in here, and they weren't. And so, yeah, it was just, it kind of, it was a good learning experience. But yeah, it'll
Mm-hmm.
learn you up quick, right? Like don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I know it's kind of cliche, but man, it's so true.
I know,
because I've done it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem with the cliches is people hear them and they don't actually think about what you're saying. But if you're putting all your eggs in one basket because you saw an elk there in 2003,
right? Exactly.
and you're still hunting that same mountain,
Yep.
you know that's kind of what happens. So,
Yeah.
what does 5 years from now look like in your mind for Ivory Holsters?
That's such a good question. Golly, that's awesome.
Sorry, it's kind of out of the blue, man.
No, it's great. Like we've been really, so right this minute we're trying to ramp up production. So right now, as it sits, I'm one guy in our garage, and my wife does like all the bookkeeping and taxes and all that stuff. She's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she'll ever listen to it, but if she does, she's like my entire world. You're
not just saying that because you're in big trouble for not taking the trash out or something, are you?
Right? No, I'm in big trouble anyway. But,
Me too, man.
But I mean it. She's incredible, and so it's right now. My biggest thing is trying to increase production. So it's one guy in the shop or in the garage and bending plastic, and every single one of them that leaves this place is custom molded, cut, drilled, buffed, sanded, everything by me. And so that's just not sustainable. And so there's a couple of processes and some bits of equipment that we're ramping up right now to try and make the production faster, as opposed to trying to bring on people. I'm trying to automate it to the point where even a donkey could do it. And so that's where we are right now.
Gotcha.
I know it's kind of a long-winded answer. But then we've also got a couple of things. I'm telling you, I've been so blessed. I've got one of the things that really helps. We were up at the Total Archery Challenge here in Colorado at one point, and bottom line, I started talking with Sharon from Knock On Archery and got really, really lucky to get in with them. We actually have built a custom release holster for Knock On Archery. It'll run 4 of their releases. It's
Oh, really?
If I'm honest, I'm pretty proud of it. So they have a bunch of releases in their lineup, but we were able to create something that had an adjustable retention piece in it where you could run the Knock to It Mini, their Silverback, and then their Silverback Plus and their Silverback Mini. And so that has been just massive for us. So when you talk about like,
oh, cool,
the thing where we're going in 5 years, not to put too much of our business out there, I feel like there's a market for being able to get some good quality release holsters out there. And so I'm kind of working on that. And then other stuff, like I know you and I were talking earlier, we're looking at testing some vinyl harness type stuff right now. Not vinyl harness, but like
chest holster,
a chest rig. Yeah, you got it, a chest rig. And so just stuff like that. So new products that we're working on trying to come out with, at the same time trying to keep our foot on the gas with our bread and butter, which is that pack holster.
Mm-hmm.
But be able to do it faster. So you say that 5 years from now, because like we talked about earlier, I have zero quit in me in 5 years. It will, God willing, it'll be, I don't know. I'm not trying to build an empire. I shouldn't say that, but it'll be much, much bigger than what it is right now, because I have this like fiery passion for what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just won't quit. And so I think that just from that alone, it'll be much, much bigger than what it is. I don't know, holster wise or dollar amounts or anything like that, but man, the new products we're coming out with, and then the lack of quit is going to just by itself, hopefully propel this to something where, we've got something, what I would consider to be massive. And it's because of guys like you. I mean, the ability to be somewhere like right here, right now, talking to guys like you has been so massive. And so I'm just going to keep plugging at this and try and again, keep my foot on the gas and just make sure that I keep food in my kids' mouth and a roof over their heads. And that's where maybe it'll be hopefully it'll be a little more comfortable, in the near future. But yeah. That's kind of where we are. I know that's a long-winded answer.
I mean, you've gotten it to this point where, a lot of people already know who Ivory Holsters is. You've already built this reputation. You're just in a position now where it's just keep feeding that passion into this business, and there's no choice but for it to grow. There's no other way it could go unless you just completely lose interest and not work on it. And so I think it's super cool. I'm like envious of people that are founders of some sort of some level of manufacturing opportunity where they can make something right there here in America and put it out there, and it grows into this thing that it just kind of gets almost out of control because of the growth. And I again, I'm just I'm a big fan of. If you've listened to my show, you know where I stand with this stuff. I'm a big fan of the American system and this capitalistic society that we live in, and this is why. Where else can you do something like this? And actually not be paying 80% of your income in taxes or something stupid like that. It's a great place. Do you ever worry with the industry that you're in that like some of the gun control stuff is going to take effect and if you don't want to get political, that's totally fine. But is that a concern for you?
No, you're good. It's not for a couple of reasons, not wholly. I think number one, I think God just takes such good care of me. I say this all the time, and I don't mean to be like, I don't know, maybe I'll have to answer to him for this one day, but I think I'm his second favorite son. He just blesses me so much. It's ridiculous. So if it wasn't this, obviously I'll be taken care of. But I don't, the fighting spirit of the American, and for when I say that, I mean, I know that the majority, I know there are those very, very loud segments who are like, no guns, we need to take them away. Mm-hmm. And then there are the for lack of a better term, the silent majority, guys like us that are, and when I say that, like I just don't see with the things that are going on specifically in like other parts of the world, one, where they don't have the ability to be able to protect themselves. And then two, even, and again, not to try and get political, but even here right now, like the way things are going in like, Seattle and all these like major cities,
major metro areas.
Yeah. They're like shutting down, city blocks and creating their own cities. And I think people have, when you see that, because I've had buddies that are like, they listen to the talking points and truly they're like, well, I don't see any reason for whatever, call it an AR-15. I don't see any reason for an AR-15. And I'm like, okay, well, you can think that, but, and we have that discussion that goes, okay, here are the massive things, and you can call me conspiracy theorist or crazy or whatever. But then you see like cities burning down and nothing being done about it.
I know.
And like these roving hordes of people going house to house and ripping people out of their homes. And then my same buddy, and I'm glad he got to see that, but he's like, dude, what would it's that thought like, holy cow, what if I lived in that place? What if I had
so many
50,
Americans,
1,000, whatever it is, come to my door and they were trying to rip my kids out of my arm, whatever it is, right? Or burn my house down or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you should probably think about, maybe having a rifle that's got a 30-round capacity. Or
right. And there's so many people that I think COVID opened a lot of eyes to this, but there's so many people, this little back feed I've got going on. There we go. It went away again. Anyway, there's so many people that I think they might, and I've said this a million times, there's like a difference between a Democrat versus a leftist. These anti-gun wokester leftists that just want to take your guns and remove hunting and blah, blah, blah. Sure. And there's so many people like my brother-in-law. He's a Democrat. He's not a leftist though. He owns a bunch of guns. And, right. And, there's a big difference between those types of people. But, you hear this argument of, well, I don't see any reason that you need an AR-15. Well, let me give you reason number one, because my reason that I provide that answer to everybody is the same every time. It's none of your freaking business. It's none of your business. Don't worry about it. I own one. I have my own reasons. I don't owe you an explanation, and I don't owe the government an explanation. This is what we do. And interestingly, those, those folks that are like taking over the city blocks in like Seattle, like this insurrection kind of idea behind that is the exact opposite of what actual insurrections that achieve something in the past are derived out of. Like they're doing this because they feel like the government isn't being overbearing enough in people's lives, where an actual, you know, where you exercise those rights. I'm totally saying this wrong. What was the word I used earlier? Insurrection. Mm-hmm. You know, that's to get a government out of your face, not to get it more in your face. And so they have it backwards. And so, we don't need to take it down this road, but it's just I always wonder with companies like this is some days I feel like we have a lot of pressure on us. As gun owners, you know, it's a big responsibility, but we also have a lot of pressure because there's so many people, and it's the same for hunters. There's so many people that have misguided perceptions as to what the reality is, that they've emotionally attached themselves to a cause out of a lack of self-importance or something, and they want to fight against us, to our right to have a gun, or our right to go hunting, or our privilege to go hunting, or whatever the case is. And that worries me because that groupthink mentality can take over in these big metro areas super fast. But then I see other things where it gives me a lot of great hope that, like you were saying, there's this large silent majority in America that is not going to allow the 3% of extreme leftists out there that want to take your guns away. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, and I think that majority is getting bigger. And when I say that, I mean like it seems to me, it's so funny to me, the people that want to take guns away and stuff like that and have no reason for guns, they don't actually get the reason. They don't actually understand the reason until something slaps them in the face, like a massively life-altering situation where somebody, you know, whatever, steals your car at gunpoint or whatever, and it's almost like they have to be affected by that decision or that mentality before they actually go, well, what could I have done? What would have helped us, right?
Yeah,
I mean, And you can call it chauvinistic if you want, but like the 95-pound woman against the 300-pound dude trying to steal your car or whatever it is. I mean, you don't. Yeah, exactly. That's the best part of it. But boy, when she can be trained up properly and is confident with her firearm and can get to it in a timely manner, she can equalize the playing field super fast.
Yep.
And so, but I don't want it to have to come to that before you actually realize, holy crap, I should probably do something in the way of being able to protect myself. And I don't know, it just seems like you can talk to some folks until you're blue in the face, but until they've actually dealt with a situation where they're like, dadgummit, I wish I'd have had it. They won't get it. And then, but I do think, like you said, that COVID and these riots and things like that, and if you're paying attention at all, like to the rest of the world.
Oh yeah, just today and what's going on overseas. Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, it's like wow, man, maybe I should have. And then to that end, like the fun part of it too, right? So that same buddy I was telling you about, who's like, there's no world where we need an AR-15, and I'm like, all right, well, I mean, let's not go down the road of like government takeovers, right? But let's just, you know, go out and we're going to go shoot some prairie dogs. So we go out to the farm and we pop some prairie dogs, and it's funny because I'm like, here, you know, I show him how it works and I put him behind it, and he goes, Gabe, it doesn't hurt to shoot. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's like, well, it's not like, you know, this massive, like painful thing. I'm like, yeah, man, I know. And he's like, well, this is kind of fun. I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's like, well, do you think I should get one? And I'm like, yes, I've been telling you this. Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just that if you have the level of respect for it, and you can get some, and I'm not even saying like quality training, but you have somebody that knows what they're doing around it, and they can show you how to properly handle whatever it is, a rifle, a pistol, whatever. Absolutely, you should have one, man. It's so much fun. And he just was like, because all he knows is what he's heard on the news, right? They're horrible. They weigh as much as a truck. They're super loud. You'll go deaf.
They blow holes in humans the size of a dump truck, man.
Right.
It's 5.56 round.
Exactly. It's the biggest thing on the planet, and you end up, it's like a nuclear bomb going off. And I'm like, dude, it's a souped up 22, and we use it for coyotes and prairie dogs.
Who was the politician that was like trying to imply that an AR-15 can melt an engine block by shooting.
Yes, was it Maxine Waters?
I think it was one of those idiots, and they're running around and it just totally exaggerate. It really reminds me of the anti-hunting activists out there, with the way they overbloat what the reality is on the ground, and it was troubling because people believe that stuff, but at the same time, then you have like your buddy you were talking about. He goes out there and firsthand he actually experiences what this kind of weapon is and the peace of mind that a weapon that like that can offer. It's not about always the government taking over, but what if there was a major virus that was worse than COVID, and all of a sudden these people, because the supply chain was cut down, were trying to get into your home because you have a food supply.
You're gonna,
we could probably do a whole other podcast on this topic.
I know. I was just going to say, you're going to get me all kinds of riled up. And we're going to go for days on this stuff.
Oh, I geek out on that stuff, man. I'd love to talk. I'd love to talk to people about that. I put the call out there a few times for anybody that wants to come on and talk about that kind of stuff. Cause I'm really, I live on a homestead. We're very into the idea of self-reliance and self-sufficiency and having stockpiles of things to be prepared in case something does happen. Not that we think it's definitely going to, but what if it did? I don't want to die because I don't have access to, electricity or food or something like that. I've got kids to protect. So, yeah.
I think that's almost, and I shouldn't say it's for every hunter, but I think there's an amount of that, like in every hunter, right? That self-sufficiency where you're like, you know what? It's probably a good idea to have some sort of water filtration system, right? It's probably a good idea to have, even if it's just like a couple of extra peak refuel meals in the basement or whatever. I'm just like, I think that's just inherent in us, right? I know I don't, if I'm plugging out real quick to go on a trip or a hunt that I didn't plan or prep for, I know it's kind of nice to be able to grab an extra Sawyer squeeze and a Mountain House and throw it in and walk out the door.
It's just nice to have that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a peace of mind thing, right?
I mean, I'll give you a great example. On our old homestead, we had the driveway from hell, and we'd get these crazy snowstorms would come in and basically sock us in on top of the hill where we lived, right? And so, at one point we were stuck there for almost a week. I couldn't get my tractor was literally not big enough to plow that driveway out so we can get off the mountain, and had we lived like we did 15 years ago, my wife and I, I'm talking about, we would have been screwed, man. Yeah. We would have been screwed eating like cans of tomato paste or something, trying to get by. Where like for us, when that happened, not much changed for us. We were fine. Like we were ready for something like that. It's just little things like that. Everybody thinks it's got to be this big catastrophic thing. And it doesn't. I mean, a bad snowstorm that wipes out the power for a couple of weeks can be very catastrophic for people that aren't prepared.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So,
and to the point you made earlier about like the supply chain shutting down. I mean, when the trucks stopped moving and you went to the grocery store and there was nothing left, it was like, wow, what like? And I think that, to your point, that was a big wake up for a lot of people. It was like, holy cow! I go to the grocery store every day, or I go to whatever, I go out to eat every single night. If that were to shut down, because we saw, well, both in the United States and Canada, right, how fragile that system is. I mean, just on toilet paper alone, like, holy cow.
I know, man.
It was super, super fragile. And so if you were paying attention at all, you're like, yeah, you know what? I might go buy a couple of cans of SpaghettiOs and just put them in the back of the pantry for, like you said, a rainy day.
I mean, even for us who've always, my wife and I, we've always had some level of, preparedness mentality where, something's, we're ready for different various things that can come up. Even we were quite caught off guard, by the whole COVID thing and how quickly that supply chain, dropped. And, it was the funniest thing, man. My wife finds these deals for bulk items, and she'll buy them. And that way, at the time we were in a different house, and so she'd, just put them in the basement or whatever. And at the time, she'd found some crazy deal on toilet paper. And so we got like this half a pallet of toilet paper delivered to our house. And then like a month later, COVID hit, And everybody's running around of all things buying up the toilet paper.
and you guys are like millionaires.
Yeah, we're like,
yeah.
man, let's start an online website where we sell this stuff for an absorbent amount of money, and no, it's just crazy how stuff goes. But well, brother, I've kept you for a while. I do want to point out, like, if folks listening go to ivoryholsters.com, you can look at the featured products, which are the EMG pack holster, the Brow-Tine, and the Imperial. Can you kind of sum up real quick what the differences between those three holsters are?
Yeah, the EMG is the one that's built for the backcountry hunter, and that's mostly it just mounts to the hip belt of your hunting pack. It'll mount to almost, I shouldn't say almost. There's a couple of pack makers that it's a little tough to put them on there. But yeah, it mounts to most of the hunting packs on the market, the higher end ones anyway. And so that's kind of our bread and butter. That's the one I bet we sell probably 95% of the thing that goes out the door is that EMG pack holster. The Monarch is basically, it's a very similar one, same type of a shell, but it's built with a sweat guard cut down for a little bit of a faster draw, or a little bit, I shouldn't say that. Maybe it's more of an accessible draw and then getting it back in the holster, but it's a different set of clips. The Brow-Tine is our inside the waistband holster, and it's built with this. It's got the Brow-Tine is actually it's a concealment wing that basically, when you put it inside the waistband, especially more toward the appendix area, it pushes out on the belt line, which pulls the grip of the gun into the body, and it's pretty darn impressive in the way that it helps you to conceal under some fairly tight clothing. Yeah, it's okay. You wouldn't think that little piece of plastic would do much, but that Brow-Tine sucks it in nice and tight to the body. So I
like that one.
Yeah, you don't have to dress around it nearly as much as you would some of the other holsters.
Even something bulky like say a 10 millimeter.
For sure, the 10 mil. As a matter of fact, I think more for the. Are you there?
Yeah, it was just weird feedback going on. Sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, more the bulkier ones, the better. And I say that like the big long grip, like your 10 mil or a Glock 19 or 17, it really lends to being able to conceal those. Whereas if you had like a small like XDS or a 365 where the grip isn't super long, you might not even need that, just because there's not a whole lot that you have to try and conceal. It's so small, it's pretty well concealed on your body anyway. But yeah, those
okay.
Larger frame pistols, man, that thing really shines there. And then the Imperial is basically just the same thing, but without the Brow-Tine wing, the concealment wing on it. It's just an inside the waistband, super simple, more for if you were going to carry it like the 3 o'clock position or behind the hip, like whatever, 4:30 position. You don't necessarily need that Brow-Tine in there. But yeah, that's pretty well it. It's just super simple.
Well, that's not it. That's not it. You have failed to talk about the hooch pouch, and I'm pretty excited about the hooch pouch. I didn't even know you had that.
You're not wrong. That one's kind of it's so stinking cool. If you get a chance to read the description on the hooch pouch, I want you to call me and just tell me whether or not you laughed. If you can read that whole thing and not laugh, I'll send you one for nothing.
Well, let's just share the first line. The hooch pouch flask holster was designed with the world's top drinkers in mind. Man, you're a man after my own heart, aren't you? I need one of these.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. It's for sure novelty, right? But man, it's just there's people make like dip can pouches and stuff like that. But this thing is it's cool, and it comes with the flask too, so it's just cool all in one piece where you carry.
Oh, it comes with the flask too. That's a good deal.
It worked real. Like I've had guys that are doing like wedding parties, right? Where they have like a bachelor party or whatever. And that's the gift that they get for all the groomsmen. It's pretty cool. It worked great for like weddings, funerals, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm just reading your the list. The hooch pouch is essential for weddings, public speaking, PowerPoints, funerals. Gosh. Oh, I love it, man. Yeah. I like a good sense of humor like that. That's awesome.
Well, good. I feel like I'm like, well, there's that thing inside my head that goes, not a lot. there are some people, most folks get it, right? But there are some people that are like, this guy is not funny. And I think in my head, I'm like, I get a little self-conscious and I'm like, is this very professional? And then there's that guy in my head that's like, dude, it's your freaking company. Say whatever you want.
Yeah,
right?
man. I love a good sense of humor. I like that kind of sense of humor too. And so, I'm curious about where it says though, why Civil War reenactments? What's going on with that?
LARPing. So I have this LARPing is like live action role plays where they'll like,
is that what that is?
Like go out. Yeah. Well, I mean, like that's, essentially. So like Civil War reenactments, there's a movie that they had like just a ton of, and I know I'm going to offend some people, but there's a bunch of nerds that go out and they'll put like swords and shields and bows and everything. They'll go out and like reenact these battles, which is I would imagine it's pretty darn fun, but yeah, I'm like, if you're going to go LARPing,
I'll spill a secret, dude. I used to be a Civil War reenactor when I was in high school. And so that's why it stuck out. I did the Battle of Gettysburg and Antietam, nice. and I'm still a big Civil War buff, but I'm not about to go do reenactments anymore.
Well, if you did, wouldn't it be better with a little whiskey on your hip?
The hooch pouch would have been essential. That would be essential gear for me. And I just, I feel like I really need one of those because I do a lot of PowerPoint presentations. I do some public speaking, taking out the garbage. I do a lot of that.
Well, the defense rest, Your Honor. You need one.
I need one. Oh, it even says podcasting, man. See? You made this thing for me. I think we should make one that says the Western Huntsman on it. Get the logo on there.
We can make that happen. We can do that.
It'd sell like hotcakes, right?
Well, at least to one of them. One guy.
One guy. I'd buy like 10 of them. You'd be like, wow, man. We need to do another run of these.
I'll do it.
No. Well, cool, brother. This is good stuff. Tell everybody where they could find you.
Yeah, so ivoryholsters.com, you mentioned that. And then Instagram is probably where I'm most active. Instagram, Facebook. It's just and then YouTube too. We've got some, man, it's that I'm trying to hammer the shorts on YouTube because those seem to get the most reach. But we've got some pretty solid, like how it's made type content on YouTube and then Instagram. And then there's a bunch of like stupid hunting videos where I'll go out into the woods and this is from years ago, right? Where I've come out with like elk hunting pro tips where it's stuff like I got one where it's like when you find some fresh elk scat, pick up one nugget and put it in your mouth and you can, and it's like that whole like I'm whispering in the woods, like you put it in your mouth and you can tell which way they went based on the taste, and it's just so freaking funny.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Not everybody gets it. Yeah, so there's a lot of content like that, but yeah, YouTube, awesome. Facebook, Instagram, and then ivoryholsters.com.
All right, guys, that stuff is all going to be in the show notes. You're going to find the Ivory Holsters website and the Instagram, and I think I'll put the YouTube in there too. Let me write that down. And so that'll be all in the show notes. Any closing thoughts?
No, I'm so thankful to you, Jim. I really genuinely appreciate it. It means a ton to me to be able to come on here and just talk, especially about hunting stuff too. But the fact that you've given me the ability to kind of come on and share what I do and my passion for it is, I'm just humbled by it. I really appreciate it.
Well, the feeling is mutual for sure, man. Like I told you before we hit record, like this show doesn't happen without guys like you who are willing to talk to, a derelict like me. So it really does. It makes a big difference. I really appreciate it. I'm really passionate. I'm really interested in the story behind all these companies within the hunting space specifically. I mean, it's like that with any company. I don't care if somebody starts whatever. I'm not going to try to get creative right now. It's just
sure.
Any company out there, but specifically in the hunting space, it's always an interesting story. It's always like this journey of concept to idea to formulation to all of a sudden, we've got this website and we're selling product, or we're selling a service, or we're getting business and revenue's happening. It's just, I love that kind of stuff. It warms my heart to see that system working like that. So, again, thanks a bunch for coming on. This was a really good conversation. I feel like we're going to have to do this again, man.
Oh, I would absolutely love that. I mean it. I'll come on anytime. I'd love to talk, even if it wasn't about business. But yeah, whatever. I'm in.
Well, we might have to talk about preparedness and stuff like that on an upcoming episode. So, and hopefully next time I won't have a lightning storm going off. creating all these hiccups with the recording. So,
yeah, there's not a lot you can do about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks again, brother. Let's do this again, and let's keep in touch.
Copy. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram @TheWesternHuntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.